Hi, today I'll show you how to make a 12 to 220 volts DC to AC inverter with an output power of up to 1000 watts. The circuit is fairly simple and it's based on the TL494 IC. All the components and the various connections are shown. The AC comes in a 16-pin join line package as shown. At the input, you have a fuse for overcurrent protection and a diode D1 for reverse polarity protection. In case you connect the input voltage source in the reverse manner, the diode D1 will conduct and short circuit the fuse F1 and cause it to blow. The various current ratings for the fuse and the diode are shown. Then you have an inductor L1. The inductance can be anywhere from about 47 to 330 microhenries. Just ensure that the inductor can handle the maximum current which should flow from the input voltage source. This will limit the initial rush current used to charge the bulk capacitor C5, and C5 just select the capacitor with the largest value you can get. C5 and C6 are rated for at least 35 volts, and C6 can be anywhere from 10 to 100 nanofarads. The AC comes with two built-in air amplifiers. I'll be using one of those for output voltage, feedback and regulation. The second one I have disabled it by pulling down the non-inverting input pin 16 to ground via resistor 7 and pulling up the inverting input pin 15 to 5 volts generated by the reference pin 14. The first air amplifier sets inputs as pin 1 and 2. Pin 1 will be the input voltage sensing for the output voltage, and pin 2 is pulled up to 5 volts generated by the reference pin 14 via R6. Capacitor C4 will just stabilize the reference voltage at 5 volts. Connect the feedback pin 3 to pin 2 through the capacitor C2 and the resistors R2 as shown. This is for basic compensation. You can also control the output duty cycle or den time by providing a feedback to the input den time control pin 4 as shown. By adjusting the values of the resistor R3 or R4, you can alter the den time in between the two half cycles and thus control the shape of the output alternating current waveform. This will ensure that there's some den time in between the two half cycles, which will give you a good modified sine wave AC. The capacitor C3 will stabilize the input voltage to the den time control pin 4. The voltage input at pin 4 should be anywhere from 0 to 3.3 volts. The higher it gets, the more the den time between the output half cycles. The frequency of operation is set by the timing capacitor C1 and the timing resistor R1. They are 100 nanofarads and 100 kiloohms for a final output frequency of 50 Hz. The frequency formula is given by 1 over 2 RTCT, and so you can adjust either the value of the capacitor C1 or resistor R1 to give you any desired output frequency. Just ensure that it's between 50 and 60 Hz. Pin 7 is ground. Pin 13 is the output control pin, and this pin controls the way the output transistors operate. They can either function as a push-pull driver or in parallel of each other, meaning they'll be switching together. But because in this case you want a push-pull driver, you need to pull it to 5 volts. Connect the open connectors pin 8 and 11 to VCC, pin 12 as shown. I'll be using the open emitters pin 9 and 10 as an emitter forward driver circuit as shown. The outputs at pin 10 and pin 9 will be complementaries of each other. This means that whenever pin 10 has a high output, pin 9 will be low and vice versa. For the power MOSFETs, I have used the IRF3205. These are high current power MOSFETs, and a sync one should be able to handle at least 600 watts. If you power two of those, you can easily handle more than 1000 watts without a problem. They are rated for a drain source current rating of about 98 amperes and a drain source voltage rating of 55 volts, so they should work well in this project. Let's assume in the first case that you have a high output at pin 9 and a low output at pin 10. The transistor Q2 will be on because it's PNP and its gate is pulled down to ground by the resistor R10. When Q2 conducts, it will pull down the gates of the MOSFET Q5 and Q6 through their various gate resistors, and this will ensure that they remain off. On the other side, now you have a high pass here, and so the diode D2 will be forward biased and conduct. Also, because you have a high pass here, the transistor Q1 will remain off. With a high pass out of the diode D2 and to the gates of the MOSFETs, Q3 and Q4 will turn on and conduct. Now you have a current path flow from the input positive supply rail through the lower half winding of the primary, through the MOSFETs Q3 and Q4, and to ground as shown. This makes the first half cycle. After a small downtime, the output at pin 9 goes low and the output at pin 10 goes high. When this happens, now the transistor Q1 will conduct and immediately connect the gates of the MOSFET Q3 and Q4 to ground via their gate resistors, ensuring they turn off very fast. Now since you have a high pass here, the diode D3 is front biased and it will conduct. The transistor Q2 now turns off because its base is pulled up to VCC. Because you have a high output signal from the diode D3 and to the gates of the MOSFETs Q5 and Q6 through the resistors R13 and R14 respectively, now the MOSFETs Q6 and Q5 turn on. When this happens, now you have a current path flow from the positive input rail through the upper half winding of the primary, through the MOSFETs Q5 and Q6 and to ground as shown. This completes the second half cycle. Then the process repeats over 50 times in a second. A push-pull drive topology is a high power topology and you can easily achieve power outputs of more than 1000 watts. The only drawback is that you have to have two primary windings. For the transformer, the size depends on the output power that you want. For 1000 watts, you can easily find such transformers from old microwaves, and you need to take out the secondary winding and make your own primary winding. Use the original primary winding connected to the mains as your output. The capacitors C8 and C9 are 100 nanofarads and rated for at least 100 volts. These function as spike arresters because whenever the MOSFETs Q3, Q4, and Q5 and Q6 turn off, there's a high possibility of a voltage spike occurring. In case this happens, they provide a current path to ground, protecting the MOSFETs and ensuring that on the output side you don't have high voltage spikes. Depending on the transformation ratio, for a 12 to 220 volts, ensure the ratio is at least 1:18, preferably 1:20, so that you can get all the way to 240 volts AC if you want. For 110 volts or 120 volts output, the ratio should be about 1:10. For output voltage regulation, you'll need a simple bridge rectifier. I've used 4 diodes which are 1N4007, and this will convert the AC into DC, and the capacitor C7, which is a raw capacitance capacitor rated for at least 400 volts, will stabilize the DC voltage for smooth feedback. Feedback is through the potentiometer V1, the resistor R8, and the resistor R5 as shown. Their values are 47 kΩ for R5, 180 kΩ for R8, and the potentiometer is 50 kΩ. By adjusting the potentiometer, you can adjust the output voltage AC for a limited range, and this should allow you to get any voltage from 200 to 240 volts AC. The way it works is that if the output AC is higher than set, the voltage feedback to the non-inverting input pin 1 of the IC will be more than 5 volts, which is being fed to the inverting input pin 2, and this will cause the output duty cycle to be lower or the downtime increases. When this happens, there is also more downtime between the output AC half cycles, and this will cause the average root mean square voltage to be lower. This will cause the output AC average to also be lower, and vice versa. With that being said, I hope you have enjoyed this video, and if so, make sure to give it a like, share with your friends, comment, make sure to subscribe, watch some of my other videos. Have a nice time, and I'll see you in the next episode.